Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have to talk about embarrassing things like the box office. This last weekend wasn't exactly super stellar, and it wasn't super exciting. Except there were two films, one I've already reported on, and another one that just, well, I don't even know how to describe it. It failed so completely that there's a $90 million loss on the horizon. And that is something we've got to talk about. So, here we go. Now, before we get started, quick reminder, double check you're still subscribed. Click the subscribe button if you're not, and hit the bell icon, turn on all notifications. There, out of the way, hit the thumbs up, and let's go. So, why moviegoers left The Bride? And this actually happened quite literally. Many people did report that people watching this film walked out about 1/3 of the way through it. So they basically gave it the first act and it didn't sell and they bailed. And some people didn't even last that long. And The Bride got left at the altar is kind of a fun way to say that this thing is dead. The high art monster pit could lose $90 million, and it doesn't indicate a good future as a director for Maggie Gyllenhaal. But let's get into the article from Deadline, and we'll check out Variety's thoughts as well. It was a complete rejection by moviegoers around the world this weekend as Maggie Gyllenhaal's $80 million Bride of Frankenstein monster movie, The Bride, opened to $13.6 million. That was a domestic earning of only $7.3 million, and that's not a number that, was going to work out for Warner Brothers. This is the first film of the last 9 that they were releasing into first place. At least that's what this was supposed to do, but the opening streak at the box office has been upended by the complete disaster of this film. And that streak goes all the way back to the terrible release of Mickey 17, which was pretty sad. But honestly, this wasn't all that surprising for many of us that were paying attention. This one was advertised as a female-driven horror film from a female-centric point of view. And it's also rated R, and I'm not exactly sure what the female-to-male ratio is for horror films, but I do know women who love horror. I just don't know that they would love this. And this was a weird take on The Bride of Frankenstein that I don't think anybody was excited to see. And even critics are punishing this thing, so there's that. So word was out for quite some time that The Bride was doomed, that Gyllenhaal was having an uphill battle during production, and her first massive big budget movie after the $5 million, 3 times Oscar nominated Lost Daughter was, somewhat successful. Hence the push for the PIC's release date from last fall to this weekend. And, that was a silly move, in my opinion. It wasn't done in the best benefit for the studio or the film. In fact, if anything, you should have pushed it all the way to an October release and maybe done a couple of things to change it up. But that's not what happened. According to Deadline, you can't fault Warner's on the weekend. It's right in the pre-Oscars slot that they would have loved to have put something that would have been, appealing to the Oscar voters. And there's a lot of heat for Bride star Jessie Buckley to take home Best Actress next Sunday for Hamnet, another film nobody went to go see. In fact, that thing just wasn't a big performer, despite, big wins for this lady at the Actor Awards, BAFTAs, Golden Globes, and in Critics' Choice. I just don't think that anybody that, cares showed up to see it or spend money on it. And this film, it seems to be the same story. But it's not just Deadline that was down on this movie. So was Variety and any other source you seem to check. They say The Bride bombs with a $7 million opening weekend, and Pixar's Hoppers scores a $46 million debut. All of those things are true. And despite my distaste for the film Hoppers, at least it did better than this disaster in order to lead the box office to number 1. Bride may finish a second, or looks like it may finish second, to a second weekend performer and another horror film, Scream 7. We'll take a look at those in just a moment. But the payoff for this is that The Bride might just need life support. Yeah, it's been relegated to a humor point for Variety. Director Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride, a feminist reimagining of The Bride of Frankenstein, well, there you go, that's probably the problem, has collapsed in its box office debut with a 7.3 million from 3,300 theaters. This $90 million disaster also had a marketing budget, let's not forget. And it's shaping up to be this year's first big bomb. Well, is that true? I don't think so, but we'll have to go and review the box office another time. Ticket sales were drastically behind the studio's projections for a $16 to $18 million open here in the States, as well as the rivals and independent tracking services that were conservatively giving it a $10 million to $15 million performance. Now, everybody was wrong here, including the people that didn't predict this was going to be a disaster from the beginning. Reviews weren't great, nor were they going to be. 59% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the death knell for Bride was the C+ grade on CinemaScore exit polls. It doesn't bode well for the word of mouth, which hasn't been good. Again, anecdotally, if you check X in this particular film, you'll find that most of the people were just not engaged with this property from the very beginning. And who could blame them? It was marketed as what it was, and it wasn't very interesting. But speaking of death knells, this could actually neuter, if not completely destroy, Maggie Gyllenhaal's directorial ambitions, let's just say. And while I have always appreciated her as an actress and found her performances remarkable, I didn't even know she was trying to direct, but it doesn't surprise me. International box office was far worse in, I think, 63 other markets, only earning $6.3 million. That's not nearly enough for something that they dumped this much money into. And look, it's not probably Christian Bale's fault or Jesse Buckley. It's probably the subject matter and how it was written, and maybe not as much how it was directed. Regardless, this wasn't a project that I think anybody would have been excited to be involved in once they realized that it wasn't going to appeal to the right audience. And that will affect this. In an increasingly risk-averse business like ours, we believe the business is better served with studios taking bold swings on originals like this one, Warner Brothers said in a note to press, while acknowledging the studio's 9 prior films had opened number 1. Even the 1927 Yankees had 44 losses that season. I'm not sure that was a good comparison, but okay. Again, in competition with something like Hoppers, which is supposedly appealing to the family audience, they really didn't show up in great numbers, though. And, well, this is likely the worst that Warner Brothers has to offer, at least as far as my perspective. Let me know if you think something differently is going to fail harder this year. Suffice it to say, this is one of those times I probably should have gone ahead and talked about this film ahead of time, because it'd be nice to say I told you so. But just lump this in with all the projects in the past that I said were a bad idea, and a female-centric version of this, a pro-feminism message to the extreme, maybe, just maybe, isn't going to make you money. Anyway, those are my thoughts for the day. What are yours? Let me know in the comments section below. Did you even try to see this film? Not very many people did. Did you think about it and say, you know what, I'll put it off for next week, or even wait for streaming? Or did you go see this film and enjoy it? I'm just curious, because I haven't heard anything positive yet, and maybe you have something positive to say. On that note, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, because it is cold and flu season. And until next time, see ya. Just not seeing The Bride.